Oh my. I might have to fix something over here though. Well, we have people. Let's see here. I'm just trying to check something over here, guys. Well, despite that, I'll fix that later. We'll probably pop up something over there. I'll just deal with that later. So, apparently we have a bit of crazy stuff. So, there were, I guess they're appearing to, what's the word? It looks like they're like trying to prepare for like Joe Biden's emergency situation or whatever, because that was what's been going on. I don't know what's going on here, but from Colin Rugg, essentially he's been saying here, says CNN is refusing to allow journalists into the studio for the presidential debate this evening as the Biden team and CNN desperately try to rig the debate in Biden's favor. The White House Correspondents Association released the following statement, which WHCA is deeply concerned that CNN has rejected a repeated request to include the White House travel pool inside the studio. Through conversations and advocacy, we urge CNN to grant access to at least one print pool reporter for the duration of the debate. WHCA has been informed that one print reporter will be permitted to enter the studio during a commercial break to briefly observe the setting. That is not sufficient in our review and diminishes the core principle of presidential coverage. The White House pool has a duty to document, report, and witness the president's events and his movements on behalf of the American people. Well, I mean, come on, guys. Like, we already knew that this was going to be rigged from the begin with, right? Like, at the very least, biased. So I don't know what else we're trying to really expect here. They're probably going to do their actual 100% best of trying to make it as biased and unfair to Trump as possible. So, I mean, that being said, this is not really too much of a surprise here. I mean, they already tried to, like I said, my YouTube channel, I don't know what's going to happen. So, if I go abrupt and down on YouTube, you guys can just go to my Rumble channel and go there, because I don't know what's going to happen here specifically, because CNN did say that we're threatening YouTubers for doing commentary. So, I don't know about that one. So, but again, it says, the pool reporter works on behalf of the entire White House press corps. Print pool reports are an important part of the historical record. Further, the pool is screened by the U.S. Secret Service and travels with the president on Air Force One, so there is no security issue. The Biden campaign told WCA it supports our request. The Trump campaign told WCA it would not oppose the inclusion of the White House pool reporter. The Trump campaign has a separate press corps. Tonight's debate will have no audience present and include format rules that can silence candidates' microphones, mostly being Trump. We don't know how this will play out in real time. A pool reporter is there to observe what is said and done when microphones are off or when either candidate is not seen on a camera but may speak, gesture, move, or engage in some way. So, WHCA believes this principle of coverage matters. The White House travel pool has been included in past presidential debates, and we believe that standard of access is essential. Precedent matters for future debates. I agree. I mean, obviously, like I said, guys, it's not really a surprise that CNN is going to try to rig the said debate or try to do something along the lines of favor Joe Biden here. So, I mean, be as it may, we'll see on how this goes. But I'm going to expect a lot of mic mute, specifically on the Donald Trump side. But maybe they'll mute Biden. I don't know. It is what it is. I mean, and of course we have all the demands from the Biden campaign, right? Saying that Biden would only debate under very specific terms. CNN wants debate, therefore they'll accept anything. Trump knows Biden doesn't want to debate. Trump has to accept because if he doesn't, the Biden camp will gaslight with, "Oh, Trump is scared." Yeah, I mean, there was no winning this situation, right, with Trump. Because already people, before even this debate started, or was mostly greenlit by Trump, they were already pretty much saying that, like, oh, well, Trump is scared, he's mostly not going to show up, or whatever. Like, these fools just don't understand, like, Trump was not scared of pretty much anything. I would technically say that Trump would have been better off probably not taking this debate, showing how rigged it is. But, again, we'll see. We'll see, right? We'll just see on how it goes. I mean, we have this here from also CBS, the Trump and live debate, and then it's going to be obviously hosted by CNN. So we'll see on what this goes here. Yeah, I mean, either way, guys, no matter what we do, or who is hosting it, it's going to have some biases in it. I mean, that's just the way. If it was hosted by Fox News, it would be the same thing under the same conditions. If it was hosted by MSNBC, it would also be under the same conditions as well. So I don't see where it would be biased under the same conditions. So it's not really too surprising. However, I think the bigger thing is that the CNN part where they're trying to do something to YouTube streamers and make DMC takedowns. As Tim Pool has said before, he pretty much said that, like, they don't think they're going to do DMC takedowns or DMCA takedowns until, like, probably after the stream or after the debate. So we'll see what happens there. I don't really count on this to really last very long on my channel, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll try to do the great CNN coverage as well here, because I'm not quite sure what they're going to do. Yeah, so we have the CNN here. 3 minutes. Might be safer to do CBS, but I'm not sure. Some crazy stuff. So what do you guys think it's going to be, huh? Because this one's only just read only. Okay, interesting. I had to pay for the multi-stream because I didn't have it, so this is a completely new thing. I'm going to check everything on my end to see if I am actually up on everything. I am up on everything. Okay. Oh, good old CNN. I didn't set up any bingo cards. That's unfortunate. I should have set up bingo cards because we could might have a little bit of a game of what gaffes Biden is going to do. So we shall see here on what happens. We can also look on the YouTubes. Because mostly we just want to deal with Colin Rugg and see what's going on and what's being up to date. So, what to find out what the true debate is here, guys, as well, is that we have from Colin Rugg, obviously, saying here's exactly how the debate will go down this evening and what you may or may not see on TV. Biden will enter from the right side of the screen and Trump from the left, with podiums 8 feet apart. There is no audience, as I said. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions and 1 minute for responses and rebuttals. Attached to the cameras are timing lights. When the lights are yellow, there's 15 seconds left, and when the lights flash red, there's 5 seconds left. When there is a solid red, their time is up. Biden and Trump have lights on their podiums to know if their mic is on or off, a move intended to help Biden. The debate is 90 minutes with 2 breaks. Candidates are not allowed to discuss the debate during breaks. There are no opening statements. Now, what they mean that the mic is on or off to help Biden is to make him be more aware or present on when the mic is actually functioning. So kind of this like, hey, Biden, wake up. Hello, the mic's on. So, yeah, we'll see on how this goes. I think he's going to mess up. I don't know how he's going to last like 2 hours, man. Or an hour, not 2 hours, but like an hour. Let's go back and check and what's going on here. Still says the debate is in a minute.
State in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just...
It has just started, and we're going to exit this out. By the way, guys, another thing, too, as well, Joe Biden has refused a drug test, by the way. So, like, if we go here, so we have this here saying, why would Joe Biden refuse to take a drug test? The New York Post published an article about all the drugs that he could legally take to give him an appearance of clarity. If he wasn't jacked up on drugs, why wouldn't he take such an easy test? He'll be higher than Hunter. Well, I mean, guys, these people are both very old, right? They're both old people. So I would suspect that they would be taking a few drugs, maybe supplements or something along those lines of, just to keep them moving, right? Like, I mean, this is to be suspected. Now, what Biden may be on is up to debate, right? Because we don't know, obviously, what he would be on. Again, from the actual main article here, it says President Joe Biden declined to take a drug test before the presidential debate against former Donald Trump, sparking various reactions and speculations on social media. Users expressed concerns and skepticism about Biden's refusal, questioning his ability to fulfill presidential duties without the aid of drugs. Well, I mean, we've seen multiple clips, right, of pretty much just Joe Biden being here. So, here we are.
And please welcome the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come
Those jobs created, by the way, are government official jobs. So,
price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems. And we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos.
He's done a lot, but I don't know what he's talking about there.
And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you.
Trump really said in the time that he was going to be for 21
We had the greatest economy in the history of our country, and we have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Yep, and New York and Chicago are really hating the illegal immigrant situation.
In the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he's the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that we pride ourselves in a situation where
buy a pack of eggs is like $9, at least where I live.
The wealthy. He has the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president,
Joe, are we not going to talk about the Afghanistan situation that you had like 7 or 8 or 9 of our men lost and all of our vehicles gone? Excuse me?
That doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
Biden, you literally left American citizens in Afghanistan after your debacle. What are you? You're insane.
I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question
killed
about
and
the
raped
national
and all
debt.
that other stuff. And
He had the
there's a whole
largest
bunch of
national debt
other
of any president.
horrible,
Number
Laken
two,
Riley, who also
got
was one of those
$2 trillion
situations too,
tax
that
cut
was killed by
benefit the
illegal
very wealthy.
immigrants.
What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue.
And yes, who's going to be paying those taxes, Joe?
Making sure that
the American people. The taxes are going to have to go immensely up, causing more people to have to struggle to put food on their table, because you have to, in order to do that, you have to make your taxes. You have to make the people, the citizens of America, pay more taxes in order for you to do that.
If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
He's already
Well, he's right.
struggling.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries, I'm friends with a lot of people, they cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade.
So that's a good thing.
This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump,
should just ignore this.
You take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However,
Trump didn't do it. It was the
the
Supreme
federal
Court, but
government
I
still
digress.
plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. There they're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
Yes, California is also pretty
what
strong
happened is
on
we
this.
brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help.
That's decided by the state, Joe. The people decide. You don't want the people to decide. You want government rule to decide everything for you.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. Considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
This is all your fault.
And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which, frankly, they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted it brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states. I'll let you do
The
that.
thing is,
this is
the whole abortion thing is not what the Americans care about right now. And like this is not what Trump really wanted to talk about, but like the abortion thing is like the least problem.
Do you support any legal limits on how
it's the illegal immigration and the inflation and the money that is really affecting the people right now.
3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making
By
decisions.
the people. The people vote whether they want abortion or not, Joe.
That's
what?
What it's going to do.
It's not the politicians. It's the people of that state who vote what they want.
Take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
You're lying. That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only a woman's life.
Literally
is
happens in Colorado.
That's the only
It's literally a
circumstance
thing
which
that
can
happens in
happen.
Colorado.
But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated.
You're doing
That's
that right
not
now.
the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going
That
to
is
continue
a
to move it
flat-out lie because New York, Chicago, and Texas, Florida, all of them are overwhelmed by illegal immigrants. All of them are overwhelmed. It was nowhere near the same.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in his administration, killed 3 American soldiers. Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating.
Joe, if you're going to
President
talk
Trump,
about
staying on the topic of immigration,
if
you've
you're
said
going to
that
talk
you're
about
going to carry
anything,
out, quote,
there's
the largest
literally a
domestic
Venezuelan gang
deportation
in New York
operation in
now
American history, unquote. Does that mean
with
that you will
fully automatic
report
guns,
every undocumented
attacking
immigrant
people,
in
robbing people's
America,
cars and
including
stuff?
those who have jobs,
All
including
thanks to the
those
border.
whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast, because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all, and he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half, because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border.
Something like that,
all of these people to come in.
Joe is also wanting to give amnesty to all the illegal immigrants coming in, too. So, I mean,
veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living right next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma.
Son is also charged for a horrible crime too. Not horrible crime, but for a crime.
I went to the World War II
also for tax evasion, which is coming up, I believe, in a few months.
He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the lines. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year.
A travesty that this war is even going on right now. The fact that we're funding it is also an insanity.
It will only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned, and so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take my, this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you have no terror at all.
Something around $1 billion, give or take, around there.
This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine,
a third party, a Republican third party, had to send his own people there to go and get other Americans out. What are you talking about?
And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv, and he in fact didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done, and they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never
come back
said
to you
that.
For 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
Hello, Mr. Prime. How's it going, sir?
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people, and he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then, do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland?
Are you justifying to continue the war instead of trying to stop it?
Countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much.
Just keep on giving Ukraine more war and prolonging the war and getting more people killed for no reason.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get
That's
them
not
to
going to be
accept.
good for
In the
Biden
meantime,
because the pro-Palestinian people are
in
not
Israel,
going to like that.
The only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden.
This
don't have to
is
do it.
not going to
By
look
the
good
way,
for Biden.
they've
At least for the
greatly
far left.
weakened
The
Hamas.
far left.
Greatly weakened.
It's
and
not going to
should
look
be.
good for them.
It
I don't
should
care
be
about
eliminated.
the
But
war
you've
between
got to
those
be
2 at
careful
all.
for what
But
using certain weapons
the Hamas
among
pro-Palestinian
population
people, they're
centers.
probably going to protest and
Just
if
getting
not
back to
today,
Ukraine for
probably in
1
the next
second.
few days.
We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well.
NATO has caused a lot more damage than actually
in Europe,
not
a major
creating
war
damage.
in
In
Europe.
fact,
What
NATO
happens
is
if,
probably
in
the one that
fact, you
started the
have-
war in the first place
continue
between
to go
Russia and
into
Ukraine.
NATO. We have an Article
Just
5
saying.
agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
So what? Again, you're saying you want to
follow
prolong
up,
the war, Joe.
Would you support the creation of an independent
You want to
Palestinian
prolong
state
the.
in order
That's all
to
you're saying is
achieve
you want
peace
to
in the
prolong the
region?
war.
I'd have to see. But before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, no, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia, at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C.
Yep,
they turned it down.
What's going
I offered
on
10,000 because
Nancy
I
Pelosi.
could see. I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it, too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in that dining room off the Oval Office.
He definitely did not.
3 hours.
I got actually showed a
3
video
hours
of this
watching
of Trump announcing
being
this
begged
type of
by his vice president and a number of his
that's not what
colleagues
he
on the
did.
Republican side as well.
It was also
to do
taken out of
something,
context as
call
well.
for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held
Ones
accountable.
that are put in solitary confinement and treated horribly, Joe, like those people, where the Biden amendment, where you went after American people, because I'm pretty sure you did that, Joe.
Some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there, with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The unselect committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now, out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats. They destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, I want to give you a minute.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now. And the fact
We
of the
all
matter
knew
is,
he was going to do that. We all knew Joe Biden was going to go and do that.
The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that
The only
those
person
people
that died
are
during
patriots-
January 6th was Ashley
Come on.
Babbitt.
When I asked him the first two debates we had, the debates we had first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before.
Oh, you have had multiple Americans arrested by the FBI.
Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent.
Trump got $200 million after.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have
Trump
said,
got
quote,
$200 million
Donald Trump and his
a
MAGA
couple of days.
Republicans
It's
are
insane,
determined
actually.
to destroy American
And in a week,
democracy.
he got $400 million.
Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you hear any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any president say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas?
Joe, you literally said that that the MAGA Republicans are these evil terrorists and stuff like that. You literally divided a country by saying they were evil terrorists and stuff like that. So I don't want to hear this crap from you. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas? Joe, Trump already denounced the whole Charlottesville thing, if that's what you're referencing. So I have no idea why you're talking about that.
He thinks Hitler's done. That's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well.
Because Mike Pence is a rhino. Hello?
Thank you,
we have
President
rhinos in
Biden.
the Republican Party. That's what we have.
The CNN presidential debate.
Yeah, so what we're going to do here is, so there's a few things here that needs to be a bit addressed, right? Because what we have is, like, when he was talking about Charlottesville and what was going on at that situation here, is that Trump already denounced the whole Charlottesville and the white supremacist thing already as it was. So if we go this here, type this in. I probably should have had these things, but I didn't know what questions they were going to ask, so I have to do this on the fly, obviously. If I could actually spell Charlottesville, that'd be great. Now, I'm trying to actually find the actual video. I probably should have kept the video saved up, because that was the one thing here that I probably should have done. But, you know, little old me just not recognizing what I should have done. So what we have here is what everybody should be seeing here.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in the eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law. and we are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. 2 days ago, a young American woman, Heather Heyer, was tragically killed. Her death fills us with grief, and we send her family our thoughts, our prayers, and our love.
Again, like, it's not hard to find this stuff where knowing when Trump actually denounces the whole Charlottesville thing. And we have Biden here saying like, oh, Trump did this. Oh, it's like you're defending this, the attack and all this stuff. And like, no, the Trump has never once gone and done that. He has never defended this. And as you see in the video here, he is automatically denouncing and hating everything that is going on during the Charlottesville situation. So I don't know where Biden is doing, but obviously Biden is trying to make it be a thing to where Trump is this evil villain guy, and Trump did this, and he allowed this thing to happen, or etc., when in reality that wasn't even the case. Trump didn't even want this to happen. He denounced it, he put it on the table, said, no, this is bad. And every other American also agrees that the KKK, which, by the way, was funded and created by the Democrats, was terrible, right? I mean, again, it was the Southern Democrats that did this. I already did a stream about this already, right? Where I was talking about specifically the Democrats and the KKK situation, right? I've already done a stream about this. However, since we're on break, I have no problem about reuniting this and pretty much putting this here. So, again, we have here the former Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest was the KKK's first Grand Wizard. In 1869, he unsuccessfully tried to disband it after he grew critical of the Klan's excessive violence. I don't know why I was having a hard time saying that. And again, if we go look at Nathan Bedford Forrest here, go look at this guy. We're not gonna do this whole thing. We just want an actual brief summary here. So we go look at, Nathan Bedford Forrest and all that, and then we put in Democrat as we do. As Forrest's business ventures included a lively stagecoach line and a brickford. Forrest was a well-known as Memphis speculator and Mississippi gambler. In 1958, Forrest was elected a Memphis City alderman as a Southern Democrat and served 2 consecutive terms. So, again, it doesn't take much, guys, to really find out on who were the real racists were. And it was all by the Southern Democrats, and of course Republicans organized militia units to break up the Klan. Now, of course, you're also going to see here where you're going to see Northern Democrats and stuff like that where they were against the slavery stuff, so that was good. But if you read further down in here in this area, you'll eventually find out that the Northern Democrats also didn't do anything to stop the Jim Crow era. So, again, this is staying on track on what Republicans were against and what the Democrats were for and against. And I hate to say it, and I'm not saying, and again, I'm not saying, right, that all the Democrats, and all the Republicans were not racist or were racist. I'm not saying that, but we have actual history here of what's showing of what truly happened during those times, and it's just the reality that we face, right? Where we have this ongoing. And again, we have it consistently enough to where we constantly see where Joe Biden is trying to make up things that Trump ever never said or what have you, and that's just how the media plays. And another thing I'm going to say to this too, which I'm actually very surprised about, and if we want to be courteous and be generous here about, CNN, oh, well, this is back. Well, never mind.
He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation.
Oh, Biden, you can't be lying to the American people.
Thousands of millions of jobs.
Like you can put it in the comments down below. How much are you paying for stuff compared to 2020? Or even, let's even go that, like 2019, if you guys even can remember. Like, how much are you actually paying? I know how much I'm paying. Gas is $7 here. $7.
He wants to get rid of the ACA again, and they're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops.
Oh, you have all defunded the police. Many states have defunded the police, so that is wrong.
But in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat,
people do not care about this. This is not a number one thing that people care about. This is a really dumb question. Sea levels.
Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have those. They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing what any white student can do. They just have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Earth is always going to be
the Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to, the United States can't get its pollution under control? One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress. And we're continuing to make progress.
The best solution to climate change is honestly
just like
nuclear energy.
And we're moving
I don't know if
in
Joe or Trump is going to go for nuclear energy, but that's what we need. That is the cleanest energy that we have currently.
He has the biggest heart up here, and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate. I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get.
You also hired the IRS,
The idea that
65,000, I think, IRS, which is going to be mostly attacking the middle class, but whatever.
Millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants by another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, 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 Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing.
A lot of these states are prioritizing the illegal immigrants.
In our country before.
A good example, Chicago, the Mayor Johnson is prioritizing the illegal immigrants because he gets more money the more illegal immigrants there is.
After he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child.
Because the
for many
illegal
families,
immigrants are stealing
the
jobs
cost
and
of
making
child
our
care for
economy
2
better?
children
Is
is
that what he
more
said?
than their
Like, he
rent.
didn't actually
In your
say
second
that,
term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden?
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world.
They don't. We've got a lot of LGBTQ plus people that are part of our military thing. And
number two, the idea
I can get
that
into
we're
the military
talking about
stuff,
worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up or go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. One through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care, he did virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden.
Facilities.
President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise the taxes on anybody.
He won't, because again, he already said he was going to cut taxes, Joe.
Tariffs.
You're the only one that says you're going to increase taxes for other people.
That's going to cost the average American
the only one.
$2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt.
How did you hire 65,000 more IRS agents, Joe?
Number one.
What is the reason for that?
You have not, in fact, made any contact.
I guarantee you they're not going to get enough from the wealthy rich people that can get away with it. They're going to go after the middle class. That's what they're going to do.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst.
I'm hoping Trump gets this.
The worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border.
Biden, the fentanyl's
And it
never
cost a
going
lot
to
of
go
money.
away if you don't
That
close
was
the
part of
border.
this deal
It
we
will
put together.
never go
It's a
away.
bipartisan deal.
You need to
More
close the
fentanyl
border to be able
machines,
to stop some of the
be able
fentanyl
to
going
detect
on.
drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines.
It's
We
funny
need those
because I never think I've ever heard
We're coming
Trump
down very
say
hard on every
anything that was going to
country
hurt me
in
politically
Asia
at
in
all.
terms of precursors
In any
to
conversation.
fentanyl, and Mexico
I
is
actually
working with us
want to
make
see
sure
the
they don't have the
text
technology to be
that
able to
Trump
put it
ever
together.
said anything that's going to hurt
That's
me
what we have
politically.
to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you
If he lives
address
that long.
concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said,
You haven't
15
turned around
million new jobs,
anything. You have made
800,000
everything
manufacturing
so
jobs,
much
more
worse
investment in America.
by getting rid of
Over
the
billions
XL
of
pipeline,
dollars
the
in private investment
Afghanistan
in
situation, the open
enterprises. We
border.
are growing. By the way,
Out of
we
wars
brought
we're
a
in.
lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States, and guess what? Those fabs.
No, what we need is to have manufacturers
build
making
these chips,
our chips here
those
in our
fabs
home
pay over
country. That's what we
$100,000.
need.
You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us, all of our allies, and
That's a lie.
those who he cuddles up to from.
Because
Kim
that would have been the
Jong-un,
case
Love letters to Putin,
if
etc.
Saudi Arabia was
They don't
trying
wanna
to
screw
abandon
around
the
with us.
petrodollar.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
You never said it was 6'4".
Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what you're. Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what
If
he
he's
is.
6'4"
Look,
and weighing that amount, I mean, that's
I got
not
my
that
handicap
bad.
when I was
I'm going to be
vice
honest with you. You're
president.
6'4",
Down
you
to
weigh like
6.
230.
And
That's-
by the way, I told
that's
you
not
you
that
have
bad.
to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I had, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's
let's
not
not
act like children.
President
Joe.
Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for
To
a
see that you
follow-up,
want to prolong the war,
question
Joe,
was,
that's very
will
nice of
you
you.
accept
Whereas
the
Trump was
result of
outwardly
this
for saying,
election,
I'm not
regardless
going to
of
go
who wins?
and I'm going to try to
Just
settle
to
the war
finish
between you
what
to get
he
peace.
said, if I
Good
might.
job on you, Joe.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. and he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President
president.
Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Well, let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt
We've seen
you'll accept
numerous
it
amount of
because you're such a
Democrats go
The
out and
idea, if
embezzle
you lose
money
again, you accept
from New
anything.
York
You
to
can't stand
Chicago
walls.
to even California. It's a consistent thing with the Democrats.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate, live from Georgia.
See, again, what we have here, guys, is just something that it really rubs me the wrong way, man. Like, the mere fact that we have Joe Biden here trying to go out and say that Trump is these things, and by the way, we need to make this pretty clear too. It is consistently where Joe Biden, for whatever reason, is going out and attacking Trump. He attacked Trump first. And I don't know about you guys, but if you are attacked or you're personally attacked, you have the right to defend yourself and your honor and what you have and what you're being accused of. And so Trump is only defending himself when Biden was the very first person to go out and attack Trump. He immediately brought out, the very first thing he brought out was the 34 counts. And that's insane, right? That's what never should have happened. And he didn't stick to the actual things at hand. What I've seen from Trump was he was mostly sticking to the topics at hand, letting Trump to be able to finish some of the other topics that he was able to, and also continue to go after some of the other ones as well. And so far, this has been a pretty good debate because CNN hasn't muted Trump's mic as we thought they were going to do, and they haven't really done too much. They've been pretty much fair with Joe, which is surprisingly. So again, I can at least give CNN this, right? Where they're at the very least, doing something to to be fair in this instance. But again, Joe Biden is doing a lot of work, a lot of hearsay, a lot of crazy stuff, and it's insane. It really is insane. And again, when Biden mentioned the situation with Ukraine, right? Where it was all like, well, Russia is going to take Kiev and there's going to be a war. Well, shouldn't it be in your best interests to try to reach a peace negotiation for both Ukraine and Russia to make sure that both are amicable and both is happy with the situation and have them both retreat rather than continuing on to the war? It makes no sense. Because, again, if you're going to go look at, if a leftist is looking at Trump here, right? And you're seeing things, and you're like, well, Trump says he's going to try to end the war. He is trying to actively try to make a peace negotiation or something to try to end the war. That is what Trump is saying. Rather, on Biden is saying is, if we don't keep on funding Ukraine and pushing forward and trying to get and prolong the war, there is going to be a World War III. Well, for what we're seeing here, the ongoing with more time with Russia being pushed against the wall and doing this, it seems like there will be a World War III if you don't go and do peace negotiations. So I don't see to where this is even remotely okay, because obviously us continuing the war is making Russia more and more hostile. You're also the same people, Joe, that are using U.S. weapons, and that was making Russia becoming more aggressive towards the U.S. And even still, if we were able to, at the very least, not interfere with Ukraine, we wouldn't be in the war with Russia at all. We wouldn't be in this situation.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes, and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years, because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credit people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations and gave jobs. But he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up
and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Awkward silence here. Not quite sure what's going on with that. Tuh. They're trying to get their analysis done. Oh.
The president and former president making their way off the CNN debate stage. Looks like Jill Biden, the first lady, has come out. Former President Trump walking off the stage. The first debate of the 2024 campaign and the earliest presidential debate ever now in the books and in front of the voters. Tonight, along with Aaron Burnett, the first word on what those voters might make of it from our political professionals, from our CNN Flash Poll and Swing State Focus Group. We'll be talking to surrogates, including Vice President Harris, getting fact checks from our Daniel Dale and new reporting from inside both campaigns. With me here, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Kate Bedingfield, David Urban, Van Jones, Alyssa Farr Griffin, and Newsnight anchor Abby Phillip and David Axelrod, and CNN Chief National Correspondent John King. John, let me start with you. Your thoughts.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say, in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact-check machine more than I can count tonight. That will be on the record as we go forward. He refused to answer some very specific and direct questions about his conduct, about January 6th and what all. So that will be dealt with out there. And sometimes there's a parallel universe between the political elites and the American people. It'd be nice to see what the voters say. But I can tell you, it started minutes in. It started with the first couple of.
This is a huge problem, right? If the Democrats are already like not necessarily happy with the showing of Joe Biden, then if they're already not happy or impressed by it, then God forbid. What is it going to be like if the normal American people are viewing this? Because the normal American people are going to see this and just going to be like, oh, this is not good, man. Like, this is bad. Why am I voting for this? Like, the American people are watching this, right? The American people are watching this and they're seeing, well, this is not good. And even if I go back to the Ukraine situation, Trump seems to have like a better stance on the Ukraine situation just because he said he was going to go in there and try to stop the actual war. But again, as I said before numerous times on here, is that Joe Biden says we need to prolong the war essentially and make sure to defend Kiev. Otherwise, there's going to be a World War III, which doesn't seem to be happening. And then when we go down to other things here, which you could go and fact check when he was talking about the Charlottesville, I've literally showed you guys on like exactly what was Trump saying and what was going on at Charlottesville and how he denounced the KKK and the racism and all that stuff there. And we fact checked that literally in a matter of a minute, if not less. So we already know Joe Biden is lying here, right? And of course, Joe Biden was talking about the economy and how inflation is fine and we're doing good, but you can't tell the American people that because the American people know by buying food and buying groceries. Like, we all know how expensive it was. Like, if you go into Amazon and go checking your history, you'll end up going to find out that all our stuff has gone up. it's not good, guys. And us Americans, the American people, see and feel this. And then, if we're gonna go and say that Joe Biden is about the illegal immigration, Joe Biden didn't really say what he was gonna go do about the illegal immigration, right? He didn't say anything about what he was gonna deal with the illegal immigration. Trump, on the other hand, said he was going to go close the border. He's going to go do this and this and this and make sure that we do not have these illegals coming into our country. Well, right now, for what we know, is that the top biggest thing that the American people do not like right now, outside of inflation, it's a fight between inflation and illegal immigration, is that these are one of the two biggest things that people don't like, right? And what these people talk about, like, oh, he didn't answer some of the things like January 6th or all that stuff, right? Well, January 6th and the abortion thing is really the last thing on people's minds. And I kind of put kudos to Trump there in that sense of, like, not trying to entertain it very much, because there's no reason to talk about it. It's insignificant. There's no talk about the January 6th thing. It's stupid. It's a dumb question. That's not what the American people care about. Talk about what the actual American people talk about. Talk about the inflation. Talk about the prices. Talk about what taxes. And another thing, too, we talk about with Joe Biden and the taxes situation. Joe Biden went out and pretty much said that, like, oh, well, Trump, you're the one that's going to increase your taxes. You're going to increase everybody's taxes. You're going to make everything harder on the middle class, right? And that can't be true, because Trump already said that he was going to do tax cuts. So he said it twice. He's done tax cuts before in his previous presidency, right? And Trump said he was going to do tax cuts when he gets back into office again. So you're already lying, right? You're saying that he's going to increase it. Well, Trump already said he was going to do that. And Joe Biden, you were already going to increase taxes already on the wealthy, which I think Trump did a very good thing here as well, where he was pointing out the two people like Jake Tapper and Dana, the ones that are doing it, right? That said, like, you guys are going to start feeling it too, because he's going to increase the taxes. And of course, Jake Tapper and Dana are being paid millions of dollars or whatever, and with Joe Biden increasing the taxes of how much they're going to be paying, right? Then that just means that those two are also going to be paying way more taxes. He's going to be taxing the rich, which means everybody here, like on the CNN panel, everybody here, all these rich people are also going to be paying more taxes, because they are the rich people. They are being paid millions and millions of dollars. And that tax the rich thing is going to be affecting them too, right? So, again, I don't see where Joe Biden is saying it. I don't see where Joe Biden can actually successfully do this, right? I don't see where anything is going to be reaching the American people, because it's crazy. I don't think the American people want this. I don't think the American people enjoy any of this. And until Joe Biden really cracks down on the immigration, I don't think he has a chance of hell and winning. In fact, he had Hamas, when he went to go and try to talk about the Palestinian and the Hamas situation, he was pretty much on the side of Israel, which is fine, but he was on the side of Israel and pretty much defending Israel and what have you, and the pro-Palestinian, the Hamas people, are not going to support Joe Biden in this. They're just not. Because they want Joe Biden to go and do this. They want Joe Biden to defend Hamas, defend Palestine. And it's not going to work. People like, what's his face here? Not Hamas, but Hassan is going to go and attack Biden over this, because he's going to go to defend Israel. And God forbid, either tomorrow, it probably won't be tonight, honestly, guys. It probably won't be tonight, because, it's pretty late. But tomorrow, or probably even over the weekend, we might actually see protests about Joe Biden, about the Palestine thing going on, right? We'll probably end up going and seeing that. So I don't see to where this was beneficial at all. I think that one thing is really going to hurt him, and if anything, it will either make the Israeli group camp vote for him, or it will make Trump go and vote for Trump. I don't know which. It will probably have maybe have the Israel people probably go for Trump or go for Biden. But either way, it's like you can't win the situation. You can't toe the line. And Biden, I just don't think did a very good job. I think he's in trouble. And I think another key point too here, guys, is that when Trump said stop being a cow, let's act like adults, that really got to Biden because, again, Biden was using insults and going after Trump, and that was in poor taste. And Trump had to put him in gear, make sure he stay on track and stop with the insults and start acting like an adult. And that didn't look good for Biden either. Again, there's just so many things that I think that Biden did tonight that didn't seem good. And as we see here, guys, we see Dems saying we have a problem after Biden's performance tonight. And if that's the case, that's not good. If Democrats are saying we have a problem with after Biden's performance, that's not good. That ain't good. That is a problem for him, and we'll have to see what happens, guys. We'll have to see what happens. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up. Amazing, by the way. Love you all. I am going to end the stream here. I'll be doing my normal stuff tomorrow. So you guys all have a great night, and I'll see you guys later.